Throws it back up top. James puts up the three. Oh! Doncic pulls up. Three-pointer. Bang! Bang!
Welcome back to the Double Trouble podcast. This is probably like the shortest time between two episodes that I've recorded, because I just recorded the last one on Friday. Now on Wednesday I'm recording again. The reason I do that is because I don't record these at night. I record them like middle of the day, and there's gonna be playoff games. Like there's playoff games tonight. There's playoff games like every day. So to get a day where I have a lot of time, and this was the best day of this week. And there's a lot to talk about. This is not going to be an only basketball episode. There are things going on in football that are worth talking about. So we're going to talk about the NBA playoffs. We're going to talk about some football rumors. And it should be a good episode. We're going to start off with probably what most of you are here. The Clippers. Clippers slander is live. The Clippers went down 2-0 yesterday. The Clippers-Mavs game and the Lakers-Suns game were on at the same time. So I watched a little bit of the Clippers-Mavs game in the second quarter before the Lakers game when the Lakers game was in halftime. And then when the Lakers game ended, I watched the rest of the Clippers-Mavericks. So I'm not going to go and talk like I saw the entire game. No, because I saw bits and pieces. I didn't even see that Luka drops that fadeaway, because I literally wasn't watching. At that point, I was watching the Suns-Lakers game, which I'll get into that series in a second. But from what I saw, I think there were still takeaways to be made. I saw most of the fourth quarter. The Clippers come back. Paul George hit a three. I think Kawhi hit a three. And they cut the lead to 1 in the fourth. And I was like, all right, the Clippers are gonna win this game. There's no way they go down. There's no way they go down 2-0 against a young Mavericks team. They just cut the lead to 1. They're probably gonna get a steal, go take the lead. I was wrong. I was very wrong. Dallas ended up closing out the game. Luka Doncic hitting shots. Tim Hardaway Jr. was hitting shots. Tim Hardaway Jr., Dorian Finney-Smith grabbing rebounds. Kristaps Porzingis played well. Everybody was hitting on all cylinders. And like you said, game 1, Kristaps Porzingis wasn't good. Kristaps Porzingis may not be the best player in the world, but he's going to have better days. And he had a better day today. Like last year the Clippers were playing well, and they went up 3-1, and they just collapsed. They collapsed in the middle of game 1. The Clippers team didn't get drastically better. I made it clear that I don't think they got drastically better, and I didn't have them getting past the conference finals. I thought the conference finals was their ceiling, but I could have saw them losing in the second round. So the Clippers, they ducked the Lakers. They put themselves in a position by losing to OKC and Houston back-to-back that they wouldn't have to play the Lakers into the conference finals. And they looked at the Mavericks and were like, this is an easier matchup. And I don't know why they looked at that like that, because the Mavericks literally took this team to 6 last year. And it seemed like they shrugged the Mavericks off. They were like, all right, we're dodging Lakers, we'll just play the Mavericks. And I didn't understand that. I thought ducking smoke is not healthy if you plan to be a championship team. That's like the Nets ducking the Bucks or the Sixers. No, the Nets aren't ducking smoke. The Nets are going to play basketball. And Tyron Lewis will say they were just resting their stars. No, they were ducking the Lakers. I think that's obvious and clear. They ducked the Lakers, they got matched up with the Mavericks, and now the Mavericks are giving them problems. Now, the problem is coaching right now. Last series, it was the Clippers shrugged off Denver. They were looking towards a matchup with the Lakers. The whole season, they were looking towards a matchup with the Lakers. And it didn't seem like they saw Denver as a threat until, oh crap, we're going to a Game 7. And then they had a lead in Game 7. It was a close game until they just collapsed. That's the problem with the Clippers. They will give you close games. They will play great basketball. And then they will collapse. And that's not how a championship team works. The Lakers will lose games. Other teams will go on runs against the Lakers. But you'll never be able to see a point where the Lakers are playing basketball and it feels like they just collapse. They just break right in front of your eyes. And right now, the Clippers have collapsed. Their mental state cannot be good right now, down 2-0. And then they have to go on the road to Dallas. Last season, you can say Patrick Beverley was injured. The Clippers had some injuries, whatever. There are no injuries. This is a healthy Clippers team at their peak. And they're down 2-0. So, a few changes I would make for the Clippers. I do not believe the series is over by any means. If the Clippers make the right adjustments and the Mavericks don't hit all those shots that they were hitting before, Clippers can easily come back. However, going 2 straight on the road, it does not look any sort of. It does not look good. It does not look good. So, first change, I've heard most people say this. They gotta stop giving Luka that switch. I've seen it so many times. 2 years in a row now, Luka's getting the switch on Reggie Jackson. He's getting the switch on Marcus Morris. He's getting the switch on whatever point guard they have in the game. And Luka should not be getting switched on those players. Luka will dominate Reggie Jackson. Luka will dominate Patrick Beverley. Patrick Beverley is too small for Luka Doncic. He may be a solid defender, but he's not going to guard a 6'7" Luka Doncic. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard have to guard Luka. And Luka's a great player. Luka might even score 30 even with Paul George and Kawhi guarding him. You're not going to lock down Luka. No, you're not. But you have to attempt. Because Patrick Beverley and Reggie Jackson are not going to affect Luka. They are not going to pressure him. They're not even going to make him have bad games. He's going to destroy them. It's quite plain and simple. So that's a change they've got to make. And Tyron Lewis is not a good coach. Tyron Lue coached the 2018 Cavs, which were one of the worst defensive teams to ever touch the game of basketball. The worst team to ever touch the finals. Tyron Lue came back down from 3-1. Tyron Lue only got hired because people were saying he's a championship coach. And I maybe I said this in a podcast before. I never agreed with the hiring of Tyron Lue. I thought Doc Rivers should have never been fired. But whatever. You fired Doc Rivers. Tyron Lue was the guy. Whatever. And now you're in this position. Second change, Luke Kennard should play. Luke Kennard is a better body to put in Luka than Reggie Jackson, than Patrick Beverley. Luke Kennard somewhat matches up with Luka Doncic's height. And when the Mavericks are hitting threes, you want to have a shooter in the game that can hit threes to complement with that. Luke Kennard is an incredible three-point shooter. You paid Luke Kennard. He's the third highest paid player on the Clippers. And he's not getting a single playoff minute. That's interesting to me. Luke Kennard should definitely be on the floor. That's what I was saying for Clippers. Serge Ibaka. Nick Batum in the game over Serge Ibaka in its crucial moments. That don't make sense to me. It should be Serge Ibaka. But a few changes for the Clippers. It's going to be difficult, but this is facing adversity. And I have never seen this team do well with the face of pressure, with the face of adversity. However, maybe this year something could change. But if you personally ask me what I think is going to happen, I've got the Mavericks in 5. I think maybe the Clippers take a game, maybe they don't. But this is all Dallas, man. Going into 2 straight home games, Dallas is going to have full capacity. That crowd is going to be loud. The Clippers are not winning this series. Moving next into the other LA team, we've got the Lakers and Suns. Obviously, like I said, both those games were at the same time. A very bad decision by whoever made that decision. They should be fired. Anyway, Lakers Suns. Game 1 happened on Sunday. The Suns were very good. It was a normal Lakers Game 1 fill-out game. The Suns played better. Lakers didn't come with that intensity. Anthony Davis struggled. And Game 2, Lakers played a lot better. Chris Paul, man. It just hurts, man. I want Chris Paul to win a ring more than I want most things in life. Chris Paul deserves this so much, and he finally got in another contender. For the first time since, 2018, he got another contending team. And he just got injured. About to go to 2 games in LA. He's hurt. And I don't know if he'll play next game. If he does play next game, he won't be 100%. He's playing through an injury, and he's not Chris Paul. He's not himself. And it really sucks to watch. I hope he can come back, but here's what my analysis on the rest of the series is pretty simple. It depends on Chris Paul. I refuse to believe that the Phoenix Suns can win this series if Chris Paul does not play. That's how I see it. They're not winning this series if Chris Paul doesn't play. Though Cameron Payne was good yesterday, and that's why we didn't see Chris Paul down the stretch. Cameron Payne was the better guy to have in the game. He was playing very well. Never thought I would be saying that Chris Paul was outplayed by Cameron Payne. Booker missing some shots in the clutch. Suns turning over the ball, and it just felt like a young playoff team. They got there, but they were a little anxious. This is going to be a close series. The Lakers are not going to blow the Suns team out. The Suns play very good. They play very hard. And we got a 1-1 series going into LA. I think my opinion still stands. I think it's still a 6-game series. Andre Drummond, who I said shouldn't get any minutes, I still stand with that. Though he had a good game. Andre Drummond literally played well. What I said stands. I still don't believe he should be getting minutes. AD should be playing the 5. Marc Gasol should be the only center getting minutes off the bench. Marc Gasol and Montrezl Harrell should be the only centers getting minutes off the bench. However, Drummond played well. LeBron took over in the 4th. AD had a lot better game. And we have a tied series. So, it's interesting to see. I'm interested to see how this plays out. I do not think the Suns are done. I don't think that it's all in the Lakers' favor. But if Chris Paul comes back and plays exactly how he did post-injury in Game 1 and in Game 2, the Suns are not going anywhere. And before, maybe someone will ask me, bro, y'all not getting any Grizzlies Jazz breakdown from me. I didn't watch Game 1. I know Ja. I saw Dylan Brooks played very well. I saw Ja play very well. Game 2 was kind of late. I don't know if I'll catch Game 2. But I am not breaking down that series. Anyway, Portland, Denver. That's another series 1-1. And this series is interesting. There is no defense being played on either side. Denver have nobody that can even give Dame a challenge. It's sad. Denver cannot guard Damian Lillard. But nobody that's name isn't Damian Lillard are showing out. The one game where Dame's complementary pieces played well, they won. And that's the key for the Blazers. The Nuggets can't guard them. Dame scores 30. McCollum scores 20. Melo scores 15. The Blazers are going to win that game. But however, it goes both sides. Portland cannot guard Jokic. Jokic is just getting whatever he wants against Portland. Dame, somebody put it very well. Dame can step back at a half-court 3, and then Jokic will go in the post and hit an easy post hook or easy post fade or easy mid-range. So this series is going to come down to who plays defense. Denver can't guard Dame. If Dame has one bad game, Portland is over with. Because Dame was incredible. Dame was amazing. On Monday, and they still lost. So it's gonna come down to the first team to play defense. If Jokic or Dame has a bad game, whoever forces that player to have a bad game, then that team is winning. That team is winning. So yeah, I would still have Denver just because Portland has not shown any slight reasoning for me to catch them in the series. Dame has to score Dame has to just be on another level for them to even have a close game. So that's it for my West Series breakdowns. Let's move over to the East. So 2 of the 3 games tonight are Eastern Conference Game 2s. Sixers Wizards. I think that was their closest game. I think that was their closest chance to take a game in Game 1. Russ played well for the most part. Bill played very well, and they still couldn't pull it off in the 4th quarter. So if they couldn't pull it off then, I don't know if they'll get a better opportunity than that. Yeah, the Sixers are a really good team. Sixers are better than the Wizards. They're going to take them 4, maybe 5. Anyway, next series, Celtics Nets, bro. Again, I'm not going to break down series that don't need any breaking down. The Celtics are a shell of their former selves without Jaylen Brown. And the Nets are just really good. Nets are really good. They're much better than Boston. And they've shown that in the first 2 games. They just ran over them. And this is going to be a sweep. I'm mad that in my bracket I had the Celtics taking a game. I'm extremely upset about that. This is a sweep. And then we have Milwaukee, Miami. I had that series going to 7. And I kind of feel disappointed in myself now. Milwaukee is much better than they were last year. They're hitting their shots. They have a lot of shooters off the bench and around Giannis. Giannis doesn't have to score 40 for them to even be close. And I'm happy about that. I like I said, I was like, Milwaukee didn't get much better. I will eat my words. I will happily eat my words. Milwaukee is much better. I was wrong. I'm willing to admit when I was wrong. I was wrong. Milwaukee is much better than they were last year. Miami is much worse than they were last year. And you can have your debates over whether it was the bubble or not. But the team is not as good as they were last year. They didn't lose anybody. They lost Kelly Olynyk and Myers Leonard. That's not enough to go from a finals team to a first round out. You can say what's the bubble environment because Tyler Hero was like lights out last year. And I'm not seeing the same energy from Tyler Hero. Bam Adebayo, very good last year, very good on defense this year. I'm not seeing anything from Bam Adebayo right now. Jimmy Butler, back-to-back horrendous performances. Duncan Robinson is hitting threes. That's something. But Miami's just not as good as they were last year. And I don't know if it probably was the bubble environment. Players have came out and said it's easier to shoot in the bubble. So shooters are just naturally going to have an easier time. And Miami has a lot of shooters. That's probably what it was. But I'm not going to cut Milwaukee short. They're playing good basketball right now. Game 1, Miami only lost by 3. So I still think Miami, they're about to go home, get 2 home games. And I still think Miami can do a little something. I don't think they'll get swept. I think there still could be a 6-game series. Because Miami are still a good team at the end of the day. Jimmy Butler is going to have better games. Bam Adebayo is going to have better games. All you have to do is rely on Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson for some corner 3-point shots. And I think they can do that when they feel like doing it. But, yeah, you're going to get better games out of the guys you have. So, I'm not worried if I'm Miami. I'm not tripping. They're going to play better. They're going to have better games. But down 2-0. Lord, couldn't take one of the Bucks home games. Kind of worrying, but I will go Bucks in 6. I will go Bucks in 6, maybe 5. But I don't think it's going to 7 anymore. And here we go. Knicks Hawks. Knicks and Hawks will play tonight at 7:30 on TNT. So Trae Young is going to take this persona as a villain now because he told the crowd to shush, and he was very good in the fourth quarter. The Hawks played a great game. They went out to an early lead in the first. The Knicks were extremely cold. Julius Randle had a bad game. Alec Burks, Derrick Rose, had to take charge for the Knicks. And those are good players, but Julius Randle is the Knicks' perennial all-star. That is their guy. They need to rely on him to play well if they want to do things. The fact that they were in that game and it was so close without Julius Randle, I think, is nothing to be too worried about if I'm New York. But Trae Young was exceptional. The foul drawing technique of Trae Young, as a Knicks fan, I don't like it. But if it works, it works, If they're going to call it, they're going to call it. But the Knicks have to play Trae Young better. What I would change to the Knicks going into game 2 is Ntilikina has to play more. Nerlens Noel is questionable tonight. He's still listed as questionable only 6 hours before the game. Tom Thibodeau in an interview said Nerlens would be fine. That's big for the Knicks. Nerlens Noel has been very good for New York this season. He needs to play Because if he doesn't play, I don't know who you slide at center. Is it Todd Gibson? Is it Obi Toppin? That's a whole thing that you don't want to get into if you're in New York. So, Daniel Jones on the floor. Change I'll make. Nurkic has to play more. Alec Burks at the end of the last game should not have been inbounding the ball. That confused me. Alec Burks was not on all day, and he was inbounding the ball. It seemed like that play was drawn up for Rose, but the Hawks knew it was drawn up for Rose. Played that very well. That play should have been Rose or Alec Burks. I would have done Randall set off-ball screens. Rose or Alec Burks gets open. They're your hottest players. They're going to hit the shot in the clutch. But, it's what it is. Knicks lost. But it was a very close game. The Knicks played a great game. The Hawks played a great game. This is going to be a good series. I could see the series going to 7. I could see the series going to 6. But game 2, I think the Knicks bounce back. Because I really don't think with full capacity in MSG, they lose both of their home games. I don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up for the NBA portion of the podcast. We've got 2 things to get into in the NFL portion. And let's go. So first off, I think this happened on Monday. Yeah, Monday. Julio Jones went on Undisputed. I listen to Undisputed. I like that podcast. I wasn't watching that exact episode. Julio Jones goes on Undisputed, and he says he's out of Atlanta. I think Julio Jones knew that it was live. If somebody calls you and they ask you if you're out of Atlanta, you don't think that's for a TV show? I don't know. I think Julio Jones thought that was live. But that's interesting. He said he's out of Atlanta and is not going to Dallas. To say that on national TV, I think it's pretty clear he's out of Atlanta and he's not going to Dallas. But the question is, what's a good landing spot for Julio Jones? To have the cap room that he would realistically go to. Julio Jones probably has say in the destination he wants to go to. Julio Jones has done tons in his career, and he's done tons for Atlanta. So if he's like, I want to go here, then he will be there. He will go where he wants. Now, looking at the rosters right here, I'm not sure. I saw somebody mention the Titans, and Julio Jones and Derrick Henry would be great to both see on the offensive end. And Julio Jones is going to a contender. He's going to a team that can sniff the playoffs at least, and are probably perennial contenders. So, because he literally said in the podcast that he wants to win, so he's not going to Dallas. The Patriots are a place. I don't know how good Cam Newton would be with Julio Jones. I could definitely see Julio Jones in a coach uniform, playing with Carson Wentz. Though that is a contender. Yeah, I could definitely see him going there. Washington, they could always use more receivers. I don't think that's totally out of the picture. But I'm excited to see how it plays out. There's a lot of rosters. Baltimore, they definitely want him. Kansas City, I've seen some scenarios. No. But, yeah, Julio Jones is going to be out of Atlanta. He's going to be traded. Probably not for a first-round pick. Teams are not willing to give the Falcons a first-round pick, but probably for a second or third, some sort of combination with that. So, yeah, Julio Jones out of Atlanta. Many places. Where do you think it will go? And then next, another star player who was out of their situation, Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers does not show up to OTAs. None of his receivers show up to OTAs. Packers are a mess. Aaron Rodgers goes on Kenny Payne's final show and basically says he does not like the Packers management. He loves the fans. He loves the coaches. He loves the players, but the management just aren't good. And SportsCenter, that was Kenny Payne's final show, and he just gives the whole spiel, basically. He had no problem with them drafting Jordan Love. He has no problem with Jordan Love. But he's the problem with the lack of communication. And he just doesn't feel like he's getting the treatment that he deserves. And he said he rules nothing out of the picture. whether it's jeopardy, staying with the Packers, going somewhere else. He says he rules nothing out of the picture, and it's like, we'll see. So, obviously, I'm not going to go and tell you the same landing spots that everyone has told you. The Broncos, the Jets. There are places for Aaron Rodgers to go, but I don't know what's going on right now. I can't really tell you because I don't know if Aaron Rodgers will even be playing football. The Packers are obviously not willing to trade him. Most of the teams that were in the running, they got a quarterback in the draft, so now they would be out of the running. So that's going to be interesting. I could see Aaron Rodgers retiring also. If he doesn't want to play in Chicago and he gets the Jeopardy job, then that could be where he goes next. He's getting older. So, it's going to be two good situations to see where those guys go. I'm looking at the teams right now. There's just a lot of options. Then you have this Watson situation. Watson isn't OTAs either, but Watson can't get traded until those legal issues get sorted out. So it's just a lot in the NFL world right now. A lot of stars disgruntled. It's going to be great, and if we see some trades, you best believe I'll be reporting on it. This was kind of a shorter episode, but as always, if you have watched till the end, thank you. Appreciate it. It means so much to me. Maybe leave a like, maybe subscribe. But anyways, this has been a Double Trouble podcast, and I am out.